I was sure about my decision, and I was planning to take a week off from my boss, who was grumpy as hell. In my mind, I came up with a ton of scenarios and stories for how I'd pitch it. I was thinking I'd tell him I needed to go to university for exams and that I needed more time to study, so I'd stay home for a few extra days. Maybe I'd even say I'd go to my husband's place for a day and come back. I tried to make it seem like I wanted to study for 4 or 5 days and just spend 1 or 2 days with my husband. Looking back, I was so naive, childish, and optimistic, thinking I could pull one over on that jerk. Little did I know, he saw me as the fool, not the other way around. You want to know why I'm calling him a jerk? All right, let me tell you about all the crap he put me through, how he treated me, and how he acted. It all started when I applied for the job. I had no experience, and when I went for the interview, he asked, "What's your work experience?" And I answered, "Nothing." That's when the abuse started. He paid me the lowest salary in the company. Seriously, it barely covered my commute and meals on the way to work. If I was even just 1 or 2 minutes late, I'm not kidding, even 1 minute, he'd lose it. He'd yell at me, calling me irresponsible and lazy. Just wake up earlier. Is it really that hard to get up a minute sooner? Why don't you leave earlier so you won't be late? Everything you do is half-assed and useless. You're not good for anything. He was rude, insensitive, and completely ignorant. He couldn't get that sometimes I was stuck in traffic, or hell, I just overslept. It wasn't about minutes, it was about seconds. If I left just a second late, I'd be 5 minutes late, but he didn't get it. It felt like modern-day slavery. He didn't care that I was young or that I had feelings. I'd feel humiliated when my male colleagues would laugh at me or throw jabs. It was like he didn't see me as a person at all. Whenever I made a mistake at work, he'd fine me and insult me. I never said a word. Why? Because I needed the job. He knocked my self-confidence down so much that I honestly thought no one would ever hire me again. I started believing I was dumb, stupid, and had a low IQ. And on top of that, I stayed silent because of my family. I was terrified of being fired and becoming jobless. If that happened, I wouldn't be able to help my family with their bills and debts. So I stayed. I let my youth slip away, ruined my self-confidence, my health, and my soul. All because of family. By the way, I just wanted to explain how wild, savage, ruthless, and oppressive this guy was. Anyway, I stupidly and naively went in to ask for a week off with my childish excuse. Guess what happened? While I was talking, he picked up the keyboard and threw it at me, saying, "What a rude, dumb employee you are. Are you serious? You want a week off? Who the hell do you think you are, the boss? A millionaire? I don't even get a week off for myself all year, and you want me to give you time off so you can go mess around and have fun? Just lounging at your husband's and mother-in-law's house? Honestly, you're just a useless freeloader. Don't play games with me, ever." Kid, I know exactly what you're trying to do, go off to your husband's for a whole week. Well, I've got a better idea for you. Write your resignation letter and I'll fire you. Instead of 1 week off, you'll be on permanent leave for the rest of your life. Just freeloading. I was shaking and crying, couldn't get my words out, couldn't protest, agree, disagree, or even show my feelings. I just cried, loud and uncontrollably. He told me to shut the hell up and get out of his office. I was pissed, tried to stop crying, and swallowed that huge lump in my throat. For the first time in my life, I shouted at him. "Who do you think you are? Lower your voice. If you respect me, I'll respect you. Don't make me open my mouth." He told me to shut the fuck up, and I snapped back. "You shut the fuck up." He got quiet, and I grabbed my bag and walked out. I didn't care about my last paycheck, benefits, or anything. I felt like a bird that had finally escaped from a cage. I went home and told my parents I couldn't go back to that job anymore. I'd find a remote job or something online so I could be with my husband and still help you guys. My mom was sad, but she said, "You don't need to help me anymore, my good girl. You're not responsible for that." I was completely broken inside, thinking about the 5 years I'd wasted. My youth, my peace of mind, all for the smallest paycheck that I couldn't even mention to my friends or family without feeling ashamed. I stayed silent, trying to balance everything without giving a single thought to myself. I completely ignored my own needs, only focusing on my family. My dad was pissed when I quit my job. He was like, "Why'd you leave that company? You were there for 5 years. What does that mean?" "It means they treated you well." I told him, "Dad, you have no idea what a jerk my boss was. You don't know how he treated me like a slave, making me work for nothing, insulting me, and completely killing my confidence." He snapped back. "If you could put up with it all this time, why couldn't you just deal with the rest of it? You only care about yourself, your fun, and your love life. You don't give a damn about how bad things are here, and how much we've depended on you to help pay off loans and cover bills." I was shocked. I didn't even know how to respond to all his self-righteous words. I started crying again, just completely breaking down. My dad slapped me across the face, calling me weak and useless. I yelled back at him, "Has all my kindness and understanding of your situation just become my responsibility? I've put up with all this crap and never said a word just so you wouldn't be alone. Is this how you repay me?" I told him, "I'm leaving right now, Dad. I'm never coming back to this damn house." I packed my bags, bought a ticket to Thomas's city, and my mom cried, begging me not to leave, asking me to stay for a little while. But I refused, because my dad didn't care about what I'd been through all these years. Honestly, it felt like my dad was treating me the exact same way my boss did, like a slave. And for the longest time, I just accepted it. Once again, I naively and stupidly left our house, imagining that good days were ahead for me at my mother-in-law's place. Neither my family nor his could afford to rent or buy a house, so I thought I could stay with my MIL for a few months while we both worked and saved up to rent a place of our own. Looking back, I realize how dumb and naive I was. I knew my MIL hated me, and she'd already ruined my wedding with her words, unintentionally or not. But still, I decided to go ahead with it. When I got there, I called Thomas to come pick me up. Once again, I naively and stupidly left our house, imagining that good days were ahead for me at my mother-in-law's place. Neither my family nor his could afford to rent or buy a house, so I thought I could stay with my MIL for a few months, while we both worked and saved up to rent a place of our own. Looking back, I realized how dumb and naive I was. I knew my MIL hated me, and she'd already ruined my wedding with her words, unintentionally or not, but still I decided to go ahead with it. When I got there, I called Thomas to come pick me up. Thomas was really happy, feeling like he was on cloud 9. He had every right to be, since we both loved each other. I mean, what couple doesn't want to be with each other, right? He took me to his parents' house, and when I walked in, his mom barely said a word to me. She gave me a cold greeting, didn't even bother to say welcome. His dad, on the other hand, was a lot kinder. He gave me a warm hug, called me his dear daughter, and kissed me. He was really respectful, dignified, and full of character. But his wife? Oh, she was a mess. Jealous, crude, malicious, a jerk, and completely ignorant. She treated me like an intruder in her own home, never once acknowledging me as a person, or even considering me part of the house. I felt so lonely during the days I stayed with her, my brother-in-law, and sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was around the same age as me, but my brother-in-law was a year older. My MIL would always talk about her daily life, ask them for their opinions on lunch, dinner, everything, and never once asked me to join in, or even gave me a chance to speak. It was like I was invisible. "When are you going to get out of my house? This isn't a hotel, all right? Leave, I don't want you here." Once again, my heart shattered into a million pieces. Without saying a word, I went to the bedroom, closed the door, crawled under the blanket, and cried silently. I don't even know when I fell asleep, but when I woke up, I was in Thomas's arms. He asked, "Why didn't you get ready, babe? Why'd you sleep? What happened to you?" I burst into tears, crying out loud in his arms, telling him how his mother had treated me all these days. He just listened and didn't say a word. After I finished crying, he said, "Babe, I'll talk to my mom and make sure everything's okay. We'll rent a house in less than 3 months, and I'll make sure you're at peace from then on. You deserve peace and happiness, darling." He stood up, slammed the door hard, and I heard him yelling at his mom, "What's wrong with you, Mom? Instead of understanding our situation, you're trying to ruin our relationship. Why are you treating her like that? She's not just your guest, she's your daughter-in-law. Do you get that? You don't even treat her like a guest. You don't show her the respect she deserves. She deserves the best, and all you've shown is how bitter and unkind you are. You've clearly been raised differently, and it shows. This isn't about you, it's about your family and how you've been brought up." His mom stormed into my room, yelling, "What did you tell my son? Why are you making all this up? Do I treat you like that? How can you prove it?" And that's when the drama started. She was trying to cover up her behavior, acting like everything was fine and we were this perfect Millendill. My husband was confused, asking, "What's going on? Who's lying here?" He turned to me and asked, "Did you make all that up?" My Mill had this evil grin on her face as she asked, "Is this how you repay all the kindness I've shown you? Haven't I treated you like my own daughter?" My brother-in-law and sister-in-law just stood there, silent, watching. Then my husband turned to them and asked, "What's going on? Is my wife really lying?" They both hesitated, looked at their mom, and then reluctantly said, "Yes." I told him, "I'll prove it. Your mom treats me like a slave, like I'm invisible. I do all her chores, wash the dishes, clean the house, do the laundry, and she won't even say thank you. It's like she thinks it's all just my job. She asks me to cook, and when it doesn't turn out right, she goes behind my back and tells your dad that I ruined lunch and wasted all the ingredients. And she badmouths me to her niece and other family members, saying I don't deserve to be in this family, cleaning it dutifully, day after day. That's like asking me to find your lost, calling me lazy and stupid." My husband was in shock. His mind went blank. He didn't know what to believe anymore. Was he supposed to trust the woman he loves, or his mother? I sometimes wonder how someone as kind, understanding, and amazing as Thomas ended up with a mother who's so cruel and hurtful to others. It's not just about me, though. She's always nagging and talking behind everyone's back. Her voice and energy are so negative, it's like she's always on edge. Everyone, even my husband, notices it and has told her countless times to just be nicer, to stop putting out all this bad energy. But apparently, that's the one thing she just can't do. I told my husband, "I've told you the truth. I'm not here to play games or gather evidence like it's some movie or show. Whether you like it or not, this is how your mom treats me. And if she keeps acting like this, I'll go back to my parents' house and live there like a princess, not like some imprisoned slave in your old dark house." If your mom was really capable and wise, she wouldn't still be living in your dad's 100-year-old inherited house. She could have worked, or at least pushed your dad to try harder, buy a better place, and raise you in a home that actually feels like a home, not a prison. Thomas just stared at me, speechless and shocked. He had no idea how evil his mom really was, or how much she had hurt me. But that was only the beginning of the games she would play with me. To be continued.